Welcome back. Coincidence is defined as a remarkable occurrence of events or circumstances without apparent causal connection. Without apparent causal connection. But coincidence can be a spiritual tool. You know, when incidents of coincidence work in our favor to give us direction or alert us to a situation or bring us an opportunity, it's meaningful and it's called synchronicity. Synchronicity. Divine Spirit assists us and guides us by the use of synchronicities. Synchronicities. You know, as your spiritual awareness arises, you'll see that Spirit is always with you. We keep telling you, Spirit is all there is. Spirit is always with you. You are individualized expression of infinite intelligence. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. Spirit is always with you. So anyway, Spirit's always with you. Spirit is always working with you. And as spiritual warriors, what we've discovered is that we need to learn to look at the world through a different prism. Look at the world a little differently. We learn that we no longer interpret the world and what appears before us by what we see on the surface. Because in reality, that is only a small part of what's going on. That's only a small part of the story. What we learn or have learned is to perceive the meaning beneath the surface, behind the incident, between the lines. And what we learn is that while at first it requires effort to do so, as we get used to reading between the lines, we begin to discover something. First of all, we begin to discover as we get used to reading between the lines that it becomes an automatic response, one that we do without thinking about it, which is critical. You do it without thinking about it. Thinking about it slows the world down. So you do it without thinking about it. You know, it's one of those categories of events, coincidence that is. It's one of those categories of events that we learn to reinterpret. And the reason is that our view shifts because we've come to understand that infinite intelligence is always there. Infinite intelligence is all there is. Everything we see before us is an expression of infinite intelligence. Everything. No exception. An expression of infinite intelligence. And remember that, as I said before, we individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. Our world is not solid and unchangeable. It looks that way to the naked eye, but it is not true. Our world is vibrating and is very fluid. And therefore, infinite intelligence can use what's going on around us to give us messages or to bring us opportunities, or even to warn us about things that we need to be aware of. Infinite intelligence can use all that because we are in a vibrating universe, It is always in a state of flux. No matter what you see before you, it is always in a state of flux. So coincidence at that higher level is called synchronicity. Now, synchronicity is a term that was introduced to us, to the world, by a man named Carl Jung, who was an analytical psychologist over 100 years ago. And when it comes to synchronicity, there's a number of things to consider. Now, I just did a talk on Sunday about synchronicity. And rather than repeat all that I said during the talk, I would like to just show you the talk. And then when we come back on the other side, we can talk further about this subject called synchronicity. So I'll see you on the other side. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. Those, as you already know, are the first two principles of spiritualism. Well, the first thing I'd like you to notice about those statements is that they do not use the word God. When seeking to define the term God, one definition that I found is that in monotheistic thought, God is usually viewed as the supreme being, creator, and principal object of faith. In most major religions, God is viewed as separate from us and the overseer who judges us and will punish us for committing sins. In that world of the standardized God, we, the people, are creations of God. Creations, where we are like artistic creations, sculpted from whatever materials are necessary to make flesh and blood beings called human. In that universe, we are not of God, we are by God. And that interpretation is based upon the statement in the Bible's book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27, where it says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female, he created them." Now, most religious people will choose to take that passage literally. Basically, God looked in the mirror and did a self-portrait. So in the traditional universe in which we find God, we are separate from God. We are separate from each other. And the problem with that particular interpretation of existence is that we can fall into the same trap that Adam and Eve fell into. They viewed God as an overseeing but separate parent, one they thought they could hide from. On the other hand, in the universe of infinite intelligence, we are not created from some stuff that happens to be laying around, because there was nothing else around. There was only God. Again, taking that statement in the Bible's book of Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27. "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female, he created them." God, as we refer to it as infinite intelligence, created humankind not from something laying around, not from some other substance, but from itself. We are created from the essence of infinite intelligence because there was nothing else. We are created from God, by God. I remember when I was going through spiritual training at Amron Mystery School, I was performing a 3-day ritual in which I was isolated and performing certain rituals 8 times a day. Suddenly, I remember at one point in that first day, I heard a voice repeating the phrase, "There is nothing that is not God." Upon hearing that, because I do talk back to my voices, I immediately protested and began citing things that I believe were not of God. The voice kept repeating, "There is nothing that is not God." Then that single voice was joined by other voices until I was surrounded by a chorus of voices saying, "There is nothing that is not God." And each time I protested, more voices joined the chorus. It was actually quite musical. At any rate, the process went on for 3 days. Whether I was awake or asleep, the chorus never stopped. Finally, after 3 days, I capitulated. I accepted what they were telling me. There is nothing that is not God. Then for several days after that, out in the world, I encountered incidents that could be called coincidence. I would open a mystical book and there would be stated, there is nothing that is not God. Or I would see a printed quote somewhere that repeated the phrase, there is nothing that is not God. Eventually I became totally convinced that there is nothing that is not infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. Each and every one of us are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. We are, each and every one of us, part of the whole, the indivisible whole. I heard a statement the other day that describes it perfectly. It said, all things are the manifestation of one thing only. Another way that I've heard it stated is that there's only one life, and that life is my life now. There is only one mind, and that mind is my mind now. All because we are all expressions of a conscious universe and living in a conscious universe, then the words of the author Paulo Coelho makes sense when stated in his book, The Alchemist. And he says, and when you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it. Materialists would call such assistance coincidence. Then there are the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, who said, people destined to meet will do so apparently by chance at precisely the right moment. Materialists would call such occurrences coincidence. Or I can recall the words of a character known as High T, portrayed by Liam Neeson in the movie Men in Black International, where he said, always remember, the universe has a way of leading you to where you're supposed to be at the moment you're supposed to be there. Materialists would call such action coincidence. But for those of us who are well versed in the language of the universe of infinite intelligence, such coincidences actually fall under the concept that the analytical psychologist Carl Jung introduced to the world and called synchronicity. Synchronicity describes circumstances that could be described as coincidental, but to the one experiences those coincidences, they appear meaningful, related, even though they seem to lack an apparent causal connection. For example, one day I was scheduled to appear at a conference and deliver a talk. This is back in California. Now, during my drive to get to the venue, I encountered a traffic jam caused by an automobile accident. So even though I had left home at a time that had given me plenty of time before the event to reorient and get focused, even though I had given myself that much time, by the time I got through that traffic jam, I had been pushed back to the point where I was going to be 45 minutes late. Just as I started to panic in the middle of that traffic jam, I heard my inner voice tell me that it's going to be okay. So I relaxed. So when I arrived at the venue, of course the staff was waiting to greet me, and they let me know that I was scheduled to go on in 10 minutes. It seems that while I had been delayed in my traffic jam, they had experienced a power outage that delayed the program an hour. Coincidence? Could be. An article in an online magazine, Psychology Today, says the concept of synchronicity is something to consider. They say spiritual individuals may interpret coincidences as signs from God or from the universe. However, there is no way to scientifically test these beliefs. No way. So while seeing coincidences as sign can provide a sense of purpose, following them too closely can lead to ignoring critical evidence. So it is best to weigh common sense, intuition, and verifiable facts when interpreting coincidences. So says psychology today. But when Carl Jung coined the term synchronicity to illustrate the phenomena of what he called meaningful coincidences, where events are connected by meaning rather than causality, he was also in the process of introducing the idea that we are all connected through what he called the collective unconscious. According to Jung's teaching, the collective unconscious is common to all human beings and connects us at a deep level. He was working to establish the principle that there's an underlying pattern or interconnections in the universe, and that it transcends conventional understanding of cause and effect. His thinking actually preceded a theory that now exists in quantum physics called entanglement. In entanglement, particles that have touched each other remain connected regardless of the distance between them. And when one is affected, the other will also be affected simultaneously, no matter how far apart they are and faster than the speed of light. So what I think this suggests is that when our subconscious becomes aware of some need or some desire or purpose, it puts out the call to the universe to help make things happen. And what the universe does is it connects us to those elements that are in sync with our cause and purpose. So while on the physical plane there may be no connection between coincidental elements, on a higher spiritual level, they are definitely connected. In 1988, I experienced a spiritual vision and a message that told me to begin studying the subject of angels because I was going to teach a workshop on angels. The day after I got that vision, someone came up to me and gave me a gift of an angel, book on angels. And over the next couple of years, several books on angels found their way into my hands through various means. Coincidence or synchronicity? During the 1900s, there was a flood of information, articles, artwork, magazines in our Western world on the subject of angels. By 1993, there were several new books being published on the subject. In fact, in 1993, Time magazine published an issue on which an angel was on the cover. And the headline was, "The New Age of Angels." And the subhead read, 69% of Americans believe they exist. What in heaven is going on? Several new angel-centric magazines were hitting the market. Among them, one called Angel Times. Another one was called the Angel Journal. Coincidence or synchronicity? There were stores opening that were selling angel statues, paintings, jewelry, and cards. There were spiritual conventions featuring sessions and speakers on the subject of angels. I was being interviewed on radio and TV on the subject of angels. I was invited even to speak at San Quentin Prison penitentiary about angels. I accepted the invitation, but on the day of the event, I was having second thoughts. I was worried that I wouldn't be accepted by a materialistic group of inmates. And I remember doing the 60-mile road trip to get there. I was voicing my anxiety and reluctance to the angels because I was a little nervous. When suddenly a black BMW convertible cut me off on the freeway. Cut me off and just sped right by me. And I remember as I hit my brakes and was getting ready to blow my horn at such a rude and reckless behavior, I happened to look down at the license plate. Coincidence or synchronicity? So, with synchronicity becoming, from my perspective, so prevalent, I think the question becomes, can we make our attraction for synchronistic events stronger in our lives? Can we begin to use synchronicity as a tool of our spiritual growth? And I believe the answer is a definite yes. You know, there's a concept called rewilding the human psyche. Rewilding means to make wild again. Basically, it refers to the process of reconnecting with the natural world, a world that so-called civilization and technology have isolated from us. We have been separated more and more from who we really are. Traditional indigenous practices by Native Americans, Australian Aborigines, Polynesian cultures, etc., have long emphasized the importance of being in harmony with nature. So according to ecologist Mark Beekoff, rewilding is all about rehabilitating our hearts and our souls and love for ourselves and other animals and the places we call home. In other words, it involves reestablishing our connection with aspects of our humanity that have been suppressed or forgotten in a world that has gotten so materialistic that it is robbing us of our spiritual selves. So, we are urged to get back inside of ourselves where the truth of our being is waiting. We're urged to meditate, to eat healthier, to get more sleep, to let go of those electronic devices for at least part of the day. We are urged to reopen ourselves to infinite intelligence. And this reconnecting process will help us enhance our experiences with synchronicity and make synchronicity a more valuable tool in our spiritual development. Then we will be able to see that infinite intelligence is not only a vital part of our lives, but we can again recognize our interdependence and ultimately support the development of a mindset that is strong and resilient rather than isolated and fragile and at the mercy of those material forces that are seeking to exploit us. In 2002, when I retired from the city and county of San Francisco as the director of technology, I wanted to do something meaningful with my life. So I focused on Bayview Hunters Point, the minority community of San Francisco. I went out there and began attending various community meetings to better understand the community and its problems and to see how I might be of service. I remember I had mentioned this to a couple of people at my church, at the Church of Amron. And a woman who had grown up out there in that part of town told me that I should try to contact a woman named Espanola Jackson. She told me that Espanola Jackson was a powerful force in that community, who had been instrumental in bringing in millions of dollars of the community development in the area. After I'd been to several meetings, I was approached by a woman who wanted to know, who are you and what are you doing here? So I explained to her that I wanted to help the community. I was planning on starting a nonprofit community development corporation because I wanted to help. She said, oh, okay. So she invited me because she had extra office space. And she was willing to offer me that office space for free if I was willing to work with her and her people. Her name was Espanola Jackson. Coincidence or synchronicity? We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. We have the potential to become spiritual warriors who have come into this life to help elevate the consciousness of this planet. We are going through a conscious raising event here on this planet, whether you realize it or not. So, we already know that the positive energy we generate within ourselves and out through our electromagnetic fields have a positive influence on people around us. because it extends outward at least 3 feet from our bodies. But if we reestablish our connection with the natural world, and if we strengthen our connection with our inner selves, then we can overcome the materialistic electronic prison in which we find ourselves. Then the synchronistic forces of infinite intelligence can work more effectively through us, help bring about the healing on this planet and its people. And we can lead them back to the truth of who and what they really are, spiritual beings having human experiences. In 1984, I was the manager of the San Francisco Training Center of Catapult Software Training. In a meeting with my district manager one day, she told me of a dream she'd had the previous night. In her dream, she said she saw me driving away across a field in a Jeep. And then that Jeep floated down a river. She asked me what I thought it meant. I told her, maybe it means I'll be leaving the company soon. She said, yeah, that's what I was afraid of. 2 days later, I got a call from the city and county of San Francisco inviting me to interview for a job they wanted to offer me, which I eventually accepted. Coincidence or synchronicity? We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expression of infinite intelligence. And we are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. Whether you're building wealth or anticipating a major financial transaction, you can benefit greatly by consulting with a personal, professional, licensed financial advisor. A personal, professional, licensed financial advisor who focuses on you, who understands your unique concerns, who relates to your special goals, who cares about your success. Afroeconomics is a strategic financial program designed for the advancement of Black wealth in America and abroad. It was created by J.B. Bryan, CEO of J.B. Bryan Financial Group, an independent registered investment advisory firm licensed in Virginia, Washington, D.C., New York, and Maryland. Being Black does not condemn you to a life of financial uncertainty. Afroeconomics can show you the way out and up. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash App at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support. Now, I'd like you to remember that the name of my teaching is ARRISE, A-R-R-I-S-E, Arise on the Wings of Your Mind. Now, ARRISE is an acronym, and ARRISE means above reason and rationality is something else. Above reason and rationality is something else. So, in our secularized, materialistic society, the one we're living in now, science is always telling us that we should be rational and reasonable. Rationality. They tell us that we should trust the science. Now, as I mentioned in the talk that I just showed you, the rational and scientific view of coincidence is rather dismissive. The rational and scientific view is rather dismissive of the concept of synchronicity. You know, there was a Psychology Today. Psychology Today is an online magazine, and it's also in print, that explores various issues of the mind from a scientific point of view. And so there was this article on synchronicity in which I found this statement. It says, spiritual individuals may interpret coincidences as signs from God or the universe. However, there is no way to scientifically test these beliefs. And while seeing coincidences can provide a sense of purpose, following them too closely can lead to ignoring critical evidence. It is best to weigh common sense, intuition, and verifiable facts when interpreting coincidences. Verifiable facts. Right. You know, basically those in the scientific community choose to discount synchronicity. Now they choose to discount it because it's outside of their scope of investigation, actually. They refused to talk about consciousness because it was outside of their scope of investigation. There's a lot of things that science refuses to acknowledge or even talk about because it's outside of their scope, because they can't break it down into little tiny pieces and run it through certain procedures over and over again to see how it works. Can't do that with consciousness. Can't do that with synchronicity. So they believe that coincidence or events that are more likely coincidences only seem to be meaningful. Only seem to be meaningful due to an aspect of human thinking, get this now, that they call confirmation bias. That is, you think something, and if it coincidentally shows up, then you misinterpret that as your vision or your anticipation is being confirmed by spirit. But it ain't true. It's just coincidence. It just happens to have fallen at that point in time, and you should forget about it. So they're saying we tend to jump to conclusions, and that we shouldn't believe that our conclusions are correct unless and until we can confirm it with verifiable information. Wow. Remember this, spiritual warriors. Life is moving too fast to stop and confirm everything that is happening around you. Life is moving much, much too fast. Life often calls for split-second decisions, and you cannot press the pause button while you sit back and research whether something is real or not. You got to make a decision now and move with it. Remember, verifying means to make sure or demonstrate that something is true or accurate or justified. Make sure. You got to make sure. That's what verifying is. For example, in the world of science, somebody will state a theory or a conjecture, and then it is not paid attention to until later on when somebody else can run an experiment to see if that is indeed true. We don't have time in life to be waiting until somebody else checks it out to say, okay, it's true. No. We got to go now. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, and we ain't got time to sit in the laboratory and experiment. This is not a research laboratory. Now, there are those who would analyze and validate everything in their lives. There are those who do that. And God bless them, that's okay. That's their personality. And they will probably never move outside of their comfort zone. And that's okay. That's who they are. They came into this life to be like that. And they have a place in our world. They do. I mean, they may seem to be paralyzed by life in that everything has to be checked out before they make a move. They have the paralysis of analysis. But the truth of the matter is we need those people in our lives. We need those people in this world because it is those people who keep things running in an orderly fashion. So they have a place, and they have chosen to take that place and work in that place because that's who they are, at least in this life. And so I bless them, thank them for their presence, thank them for the work that they are doing, because without their foundation of orderly operation, we, spiritual warriors who are breaking boundaries, pushing the envelope, as it were, we need that base on which to stand in order to leap and make a flight, to fly. You need the platform to leap from in order to fly. So you got those who are the foundational people. But then there are those who must move ahead, who must move forward. Those who see the possibilities. Those who see the bigger pictures. Those who, through their actions, sometimes crazy, but through their actions move our world forward. You know, like Einstein. Einstein said imagination is more powerful than knowledge. And he used his imagination to create the theory of relativity, where he imagined himself flying at the speed of light, and then he looked around to see how everything around him was behaving. That's crazy. But it's also positively powerful because it worked. So there are people who are going to take us and move us ahead, who are going to take us to the light. There are people who understand that holding on to the status quo means decay and falling backward. You know, you can't stand still. You've got to move one way or another, forward or backward. So there is this quote that I really love that's attributed to Stephen Jobs, the co-founder of Apple Computer. And Steve Jobs, through a series of commercials he paid for to go on television, said this: "Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do." People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And so, spiritual warriors, in that talk I shared with you earlier today, I cited several instances where synchronicity guided me. And so as you move forward through your life, I advise you, I urge you to open your awareness to see how synchronicity is always there guiding you as well. I have discovered on many occasions in my life that synchronicity is there to guide me, and I'm always open to it and aware of it. And so since I'm so used to being aware of it, so used to having it occur in my life, I'm pretty able to spot it when it happens. Now, I'll admit that I miss some, but I'm pretty able to spot it when it happens. For instance, when I'm traveling to some place that I've never been before. And that's here in the city. You know, I'm new to Buffalo. I've only been here 4 years. And so when I'm going to a new location, of course I have GPS. But as some of you have, I'm sure, experience with GPS, it doesn't always lead you to the right place. And it doesn't always lead you there through the shortest route possible. Probably because people are always moving around, and so GPS is not refreshed every single day. Anyway, I've got GPS, but one thing I can usually count on is when I'm in the vicinity of where it is I'm trying to go. A couple of things happen. One, I begin to pick up the energy in my solar plexus that I am nearing in that place where I am going. And the other is that quite often a car will pull in front of me, and that car that pulls in front of me is going to the same place. It's going to the same place, and therefore if I follow it, I will make the right turns at the right places, into the right driveways. Science calls it confirmation bias. I call it spirit at work. And I always say, thank you. Thank you, angels. Thank you. So, how do you get to a mental space where synchronicity can become a tool in your life? Well, there's a level of consciousness that you can reach through building the habit of meditation and mindfulness. Meditation and mindfulness. Meditation, taking time out. You need this time out for a few minutes every day where there's nobody around, where there's nothing going on, where you isolate yourself from the hubbub of life and you go inside your head, your heart, and you listen. Very quietly, you just listen. And mindfulness is paying attention, being present, being in the now, not wandering around thinking about the past, obsessing on the past or dreaming about the future. It's like being here now. That's mindfulness. So with meditation and mindfulness, you can begin to attune your state of awareness to be cognizant of the presence of spirit around you, seeing spirit at work. Excuse me. And in addition to meditating and being mindful and cognizant of spirit at work, write it down. When you have an incident that may have been a synchronistic incident, write it down. You got a coincidence, write it down. You don't have your journal with you, write it on a piece of paper. Write it down. You know, something happened and it was in alignment with what you're doing, or it gave you guidance on an answer to a question. You know, I've had it happen many times before where I've had a question and I'll be either walking down the street or walk into a room and overhear someone's conversation, and they will give me the answer. They will say something that answers my question. Or a newspaper will fall open and the headline will answer my question. Or a book falls off a shelf and you pick it up and it opens up to exactly the right spot to answer the question. Synchronicity, synchronicity, synchronicity. Write it down, because you're going to forget if you don't. Write it down. What you're doing is you're building a habit pattern. Write it down. When it happened, what it was that happened, even if it's on just a piece of paper, and then transfer it to your journal whenever you can. But the point is, you want to begin to document these incidents so that when you go back over them, you can begin to detect the patterns. You can begin to see what was going on around you. And you can begin to elevate your awareness and acknowledge the presence of spirit in your life. You can do that. So write it down. Write it down. And that helps you to elevate your level of awareness when it comes to what spirit is doing in your life to help you. Otherwise, you're going to go around blind, and you miss so much. So write it down. And in addition to writing it down, in addition to acknowledging it, in addition to becoming aware of what it is that is going on around you and in your life as a result of spirit working, say thank you. Whenever you recognize an event, in a synchronistic event or incident, say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Why do I insist that you say thank you? Well, contrary to popular belief, thank you is not only about making other people feel good about doing stuff for you. Yeah, that's part of it. But when you're saying thank you to spirit, spirit doesn't feel better because you said thank you. What you're giving to spirit is an energy pattern. Remember, we're talking about energy. And so by expressing gratitude, you are sending out a positive energy form out into the universe saying, I accept this and I am open to more. I am grateful for receiving this. You are opening yourself, you are becoming more receptive to good things, positive things happening to you. Gratitude opens you up in a positive energy state to accept and attract more positive occurrences in your life. It's important to remember that you're dealing with energy here. It's not about personality, it's about energy. Energy patterns, energy. And so if you're not grateful, if you're not expressing gratitude, then you're expressing a negative emotion, which is shutting you down, which is closing the door to positive new experiences, and on the other hand, attracting negative experiences. So gratitude opens the door to positive experiences because you're sending out positive energy. Like attracts like. So your field, your electromagnetic field is being filled with positive energy as you say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It brings such good things into your life when you say thank you. It's like giving a waiter a tip. Remember tip, to ensure preference, TIP. So your life can show an effect of blooming into a level of positivity, happiness, as you accept synchronicity into your life and then show gratitude for receiving it. Not verifying. You don't need to verify. Synchronicity does not require analysis. Synchronicity requires action. Synchronicity requires action. Respond to it. Accept it. Flow with it. Appreciate it. And the more you appreciate it, the more it's going to happen in your life. It's important. Why is it important? Because we are at the beginning stages of a planetary elevation of consciousness. Yeah, our planet is rising in consciousness. I know it doesn't look like it. That's because as the planet rises in consciousness, there are those who want to stop it. There are those who meet it with fear. So they feel the energy rising and they get scared. They're afraid of change and they start fighting against it. And of course there are those who want to have control and they're fighting against it as well. And so we just see a whole lot of negativity going on. We see a whole lot of ways that people are trying to control us. Shut them down. Shut us down. They want to shut us down so they can control us and have a society of drones. No, 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 no. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence, and we are rising. We are raising the consciousness of this planet. We are spiritual warriors. And so the work that we are doing as spiritual warriors to uplift our consciousness is also helping uplift the consciousness of others, because of the effect we have on what is going on around us. Spiritual warriors, the different ones, those who can change the world. This is a reminder of the term, definition of terms that I'm talking about, that I'm using here. Spiritual warrior. You know, the author Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote a book called The Four Agreements, defines spiritual warriors. So I'll share that with you. He says, the spiritual warrior is a person who challenges the dreams of fear, lies, false beliefs, and judgments that create suffering and unhappiness in his or her life. It is a war that takes place in the heart and mind of a man or woman. The quest of the spiritual warriors is the same as spiritual seekers around the world. The spiritual warrior faces this challenge with the clarity and awareness that this war is fought within himself, and that truth and unconditional love are on the other side of these battles. We are spiritual warriors. We are here to help heal this planet. We are here to help elevate the consciousness of this planet and the human beings on it. We do it through our very presence. Yes, because of our auras, our electromagnetic fields. As our energy shifts upward, as our energy goes to higher levels, it feeds out through our electromagnetic field, and it affects people who come into our electromagnetic field. Remember, it goes out several feet all around our body. So if they step into our field, then they are going to be affected by the joy that we are radiating. Not only that, you can assist in their transformation by doing other things, like paying attention when people talk to you, you know? Pay attention when someone is talking to you, because there are so many people in this world who talk and nobody hears them. So anybody who wants to talk to you, if you got the time and the inclination, then listen. If you're gonna allow them to talk, then pay attention to what they're saying to you. Listen, because they probably feel isolated and unimportant, and your listening to them is going to change their lives in that moment. Another thing you can do is smile. That's right, smile. Your smile can change somebody's day. Your smile can help inspire others to smile. When I smile at people, even though they may be looking glum, when I smile, they smile back. They're inspired to smile back. And smiling is a mood enhancer. So you can't smile and be mad. You can't smile and be depressed. Smile. Maybe they'll smile back. But if they don't even, the fact that you smiled at them can be helpful to them. Remember, I told you a story several weeks ago, about a man who committed suicide by jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge. And when the police went to his apartment to investigate his life, they found his suicide note. And what the suicide note says, that I'm going to the Golden Gate Bridge to commit suicide. But, if I encounter anybody who smiles at me, I won't do it. Imagine that. Your smile can actually save somebody's life. Not an exaggeration. It's the truth. So allow yourself to rise in consciousness. Help yourself to rise in consciousness through meditation and prayer and mindfulness. You're a spiritual warrior. That's why you're here. You are here to help save the world. You've come into this life to make good things happen. Maybe it doesn't seem like it in your life right now, but that's why you're here. So relax. Let Spirit flow through you. Remember, the kingdom of God is within you. The kingdom of infinite intelligence is within you because infinite intelligence is all there is. Everything that exists is made of infinite intelligence, including you. You're a spiritual being having a human experience. You're an individualized expression of infinite intelligence. Know that. Live that. Your life then will reflect that. It will. Let's close with prayer. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing all of us together in this life so that we may become spiritual warriors and join in the work we have come here to do. Thank you, Infinite Intelligence, for bringing us into this space of awareness and a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship to life and infinite intelligence. Thank you for showing us who we really are. We open our hearts, we open our minds and hearts to the truth of our being. We are the children of God. We are individualized expressions of infinite intelligence. And because we are part of the greater whole, we're beginning to understand our value to the continuity of life on this planet. As we become channels of your power, infinite intelligence, we can feel your presence within ourselves and within our lives more and more. We know that as we feel your presence within our lives every day, we will rise, because we are no longer cut off from you by being immersed in the darkness of fear, anger, and the pain of unforgiveness. So we are now restoring our connection through the grace of forgiveness, knowing that as we learned to forgive ourselves for the pain we have caused to ourselves, and as we learn to forgive those who have inflicted pain upon us, our connections will grow stronger and our lives will grow happier and healthier and more prosperous. And for this, we are truly grateful. As above, so below. As within, so without. And so it is. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate your being here. And I look forward to seeing you next week. 4th of July it is. Remember, I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman. Be aware of synchronicity. Bring it into your life. Use it as a tool for your personal growth and for the growth of those around you. So I am Reverend Andrew Bozeman, and this has been On the Wings of Your Mind. If this message has meaning and value for you, please click on the thumbs up button below. If you haven't already done so, please choose to subscribe. You can do so by clicking on the logo at the lower right-hand corner of this video. Remember, I would love to hear your thoughts, comments, and questions. Please use the chat box on the right side of the screen, or you can use the comments section below this video. The objective of this ministry is to empower you and your life. If our teaching is of value to you, then we invite your financial support. You can support this ministry by using the Cash app at $Andre Amron, or by going to our website at bozemandevelopment.com and clicking on the Please Donate link. Thank you for your support.